good morning, everyone. So welcome to our YouTube channel. We'd love for you to subscribe so you can continue to get great information as we move forward. Just have to click that little icon on the right-hand side of the video and you'll be subscribed. So let's talk about different terms or monikers in the villages. First one, a snowbird. So definition of a snowbird is a northerner who moves to a warmer southern state in the winter. So you'll hear that term quite often in the villages, that someone is a snowbird. Most often it's, November to April time frame, December, January, February, March, April, that type of time, just to escape the cold from either Canada or the northern US. Another term you might hear is a snowflake. So a snowflake is someone who shows up at random times throughout the year. So not necessarily here for 3 or 4 months in a row, but might come for a month and then skip a month and come down for a couple of weeks or come down for 3 weeks, that type of thing. So that's the definition of a snowflake. A term that you may not be familiar with is a frog. Well, a frog means that they are there till they croak. So quite an interesting term, but it's a person that buys a home in the villages as their last home. So a frog is someone who is there till they croak. Now let's also talk about a real estate investor. A real estate investor is someone who evaluates the real estate market and purchases property with the intention of building wealth. So a real estate investor really is someone who is buying a home to rent out and use it as an income source. That's a little bit different than what I'm going to talk about, but all of these different terms are used throughout the villages to define different people and who they are. And what I'd like to do is add a new definition that you may not have heard before, but I think that we're going to be using it from now on to define a buyer that isn't quite ready to move to the villages. This is something I've created. It's just a new term that I'm going to use, but I'd love that you guys take this on as a new term going forward. So the term, someone that purchases in the villages with the intention to occupy the home a few years in the future. And while owning the home but not occupying it, they rent it out to cover costs. So the term that I'm going to use for this is the early bird. So an early bird is someone that purchases in the villages with the intention to occupy the home a few years in the future. And while owning the home but not occupying it, they rent it out to cover costs. So why is this term early bird important to us? Well, it's important to recognize the difference between a true investor and someone that is purchasing a home and renting it long-term or short-term until they can occupy the home. Because as home purchasers, we all hope that our home values increase. So in some ways, we're all investors. But the difference between a true investor and an early bird is the home that will eventually be occupied by the purchaser full-time. Whereas in an investment home, they're using that as a place to get wealth and to get rent in order to get passive income. That's not the case with an early bird. So there's a lot of talk about the influx of short-term rentals in the villages. And you hear it in the forums, you heard it in the groups that there's too many rentals and there should be a change to that. But I would argue that the homes with delayed occupancy, or the early birds, are the ones that have the influx of the new short-term rentals, and that in a relatively short time period, they will come out of the rental pool. I would also argue that the true investment homes in which someone is buying a second home to rent is not as prevalent as people believe. With the increase in mortgage interest rates, with inflation and the expenses of being in the villages, there are definitely more lucrative ways to invest your money. The villages as an investment opportunity is not the best. So as an early bird myself, I know eventually I will be in the villages full-time. But until then, I will rent out the home, come visit when I can, and hope to see you sooner than later. I'd love to hear your comments and what you think of the early bird definition. Please feel free to like this video, comment, share, and we would love to see you subscribe. Hope you have a fantastic day.